All right, I'm gonna scope down now, and I'm starting from nothing here. All right, the topic of the day, if there's anyone else watching out there, it's gonna be a Martian motorcycle. This is for exploration, this is for delivery. I'm just gonna put a little title up here so I know what I'm drawing. I do like to lay out the perspective a little bit. I'm trying to choose like something really emotional and also something that's gonna really communicate the scale of this. It's easy to choose something that's really descriptive, which is usually overhead. Got a few pieces of paper here, so maybe I'll just end up starting over a couple times.
And as Josiah does that, I will be serenading you guys. Here we go.
Very nice. Thank you.
That was amazing, Lynnaea.
Yeah, amazing.
Means I think as Sarah is saying in the chat, we should have you serenading all of us every morning.
Yeah.
That would be the life.
So Lynnaea, since when have you been playing cello?
Sure. Just let me unspotlight Josiah for a second here so you can see my face. Alrighty, hello.
Hello.
I have
That
been
was
playing
really
cello
beautiful,
since,
Lynnaea. So since when are you?
yeah. So I have been playing cello since I was about 5 years old. And I will be forever grateful to my parents who were the mean parents growing up and just forced me to keep playing for like 8 years, because that's literally how long it takes to start sounding good and to start enjoying it. And they said that at the end of 8 years, if I didn't want to anymore, then I could stop. But of course, that was right about the time when I actually started liking it. So,
That's
yeah.
fantastic. Means there are many things in the world I absolutely have no clue about, and music or playing instruments is one of them. So it's really amazing to see. Any reason you chose cello, or was it also forced by your mean parents?
Um, it was actually also, so basically my mom grew up playing all kinds of instruments actually, but the one thing she never played was cello. And that was the one thing she always wanted to play. So when I was at the ripe old age of 5 years old, she was like, don't you want to play cello, Lynnaea? um, and she was like pointing it out in all the orchestra pieces that we would listen to on the radio. And she was like, look at, that's how beautiful a cello sounds. And so I was like, sure, I'll play cello.
This is going to expose my more naiveness in that world. But if you're 5 years old, that cello is pretty big. So do they have a different range of cellos when you start with it?
Yes, actually, they have quarter-size cellos, they have half-size cellos, they have three-quarter size, and then full size. So when I started, I would have been using a cello that honestly looked a little bit more like a violin.
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's fascinating.
Actually makes sense. So Josiah, talking about young age, starting off an art or a performer things, when
Yeah.
we can talk about more about design later, but when did your love start for sketching or understanding what sketching can do for you? How early was that?
About 4 years old for me.
Wow, see, Lynnaea,
And
I'm 1 year younger than you.
and 1 year, yeah. I think that was by my own accord too. Yeah, I don't remember being, shoved, a piece of paper shoved in front of me, like fill this in. It wasn't like that. But yeah, I distinctly remember. Actually, I have it around here somewhere. I need to put it up on the wall. It was a dump truck. The first thing I ever drew was a dump truck.
Wow,
Like the side view of a, yeah.
that's pretty amazing. Means I have two kids in my house. My youngest one is Juhi. She's 8 years old, and she just loves the dump trucks. Means whenever they
Yeah.
come, she just runs out of the house and just keeps on looking at like it's like Disney
Oh,
World.
same thing. Yeah. Same thing with a garbage truck. It's just, it's like, it's alive, it's so much more than just a car.
Yeah.
It's,
The garbage truck. Yeah, she looks at the garbage trucks and the way it eats the garbage, and she has her own stories beyond that. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So, so were you always great in artwork when you were in the school also? Well, starting from 4, that will be pretty impressive.
yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say that, yeah, that was always my, my go-to talent. I'll also say that going to CCS is like the biggest reality check ever, especially back then. I feel like before social media, where you would have this, you would see the proliferation of artwork and everyone posting their work. That wasn't really a thing when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And so it's like I said, the biggest reality check in the world to realize that you are not the best artist in your city anymore when you when you go to a top art college. So,
Absolutely. That actually helps you learn
yeah,
more from your peers.
yeah, it pushes you. It definitely pushes you to. Yeah.
Thanks, Lynnaea, for pausing for a couple of minutes there to just catch up on a couple of things so we can resume back to the performance, and we can catch up later after a few minutes too.
Sounds good.
That was beautiful. And somehow I have heard that.
Yeah, I put in a couple more well-known ones in there for you guys.
Oh,
Nice.
that's pretty, that's impressive. I can actually relate to something in the musical world.
Yeah. If you want, I can play another one since that was a little short, or we can talk for a bit.
Yeah, please.
Another one?
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's do it.
Awesome. I know, Lynnaea, you cannot hear the applause from all the participants, but it's really, really means really enchanting. I think we have a question from Sarah. Can Lynnaea please tell us the names or the composers or the pieces she's playing, if it is not your own? So,
Sure. Yeah, so the first piece I played was a very well-known cello piece. It's the Prelude to Suite No. 1 in G major by Bach. And then the piece I just played was also from that same suite. That was the Sarabande. And then the one that I played in between there was a jig, which is a type of dance. And yeah, so those were the ones that I played so far.
awesome, awesome. That's means I have always seen cello as a part of a big orchestra, but I think cello as a soloist also is a pretty amazing thing. Means it actually encompasses a pretty big spectrum of what we can listen and actually do things to it. That's really impressive. How I'm just curious. Means it's a pretty big instrument. What's your comment about the portability or I do not know. Means how do you grapple with that kind of an element?
The law that seems to work here is when there's a will, there's a way. So I have been, yeah, over the years, it's just, you know, sometimes like in a small sports car, sometimes you have to put down the back seats and stick it in the trunk through the back seats. We used to have a pickup truck and it was no problem then because don't tell anyone this, but sometimes we would throw it in the back of the truck. Not actually throw it, but we would put it there, which is terrible for a cello to never do that. Yeah, and even in my little tiny 2012 Mazda 3, I can fit it in the back seat if I just am clever about how I do it. So it actually hasn't been too bad.
You're right. If people can tug along their golf bags, which might be heavier than this, It's actually a different instrument as such. So I'm just curious, means how I know you love cello and you have been doing it since age 5. How often you can find time for practice, and how do you manage to do that? Because I know it's an art which needs always, and I would say, a maintenance level, right?
Yeah, sure. So when I was playing competitively in high school, at the point when I was the deepest into it and was considering it as a career, I was practicing easily 2 hours a day and not even feeling like I was scratching the surface of what I should have been doing. But today, with a full-time job and just the things of life, and now that it's more of a side hobby, to be quite honest, I usually practice like once a week at most. So if I have a gig coming up, then I'll be practicing like 3 and 4 times a week, depending on what the gig is. But if I'm not practicing for anything in particular, I'll pull it out maybe once a week.
Awesome, awesome. Mr. Josiah, I see now
Yeah.
you are trying to go and change the medium as such.
Yeah.
Sharpie in your hand. Can you tell us about the earlier instrument you had in your hand, and what makes you choose that one over any other instruments you have at your disposal?
Oh man, it's an RSVP ballpoint by Pentel. Fine
Awesome.
point. I don't know if you can really see that at all, but it's just it's just a cheap pen. I have a lot of friends that are super into like brush pens and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just so portable, and I can find the variation in darkness, and I can just make it as fine as I want. It's one of the least like bunching up or like gummy pens that I've ever used. So I don't know, that really works nicely for me.
What you're explaining is a pretty amazing fundamental facet. Means it's just a little, not little, a blank piece of paper, and as you say, one of the most affordable, cheapest pen ever. The instruments is one thing, but having the skill, the art, the passion to keep it going is what makes it really jump out, right?
Yeah, and I guess the reason why fineness, not finesse, is so important, and that was one of the first lessons I ever got from Clyde Foles at CCS, was light till it's right. And that's just a key point of using this first, is to lay everything out in the lightest strokes that you possibly can, so that you're not instantly overworking your piece, whatever you're working on.
So right now, for people who might just have joined, can you tell what you started with the theme? And I know the theme, but as you had the theme in the mind, how do you start? What goes on your mind when you start in that light is right kind of a mode?
Well, it's always about setting up the sketch. Like what are you trying to communicate?
So what's the theme again, Josiah?
Oh, the theme for this is a motorcycle for Mars,
Okay.
and that's for delivery or exploration. I think this is taking an explorative turn, as it looks like. I really have an affinity for oversized machines, so I'm actually going more of like a 2-wheeled rover at this point, which I don't know. I think it's cool.
It should be cool. Means and
Yeah.
sometimes oversized or over strong, especially when you are exploring the surface of Mars, should be pretty apt. It should be.
Exactly. You almost need that extra, not show, but like just an extra shield of strength in this super new environment. You're obviously trying to preserve.
Hardly any pit stop or a roadside garage over there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You never know what you're gonna come across on a new planet.
Yeah, we will let you continue for the next step. Until that, we can again go over to Lynnaea for the next element in Bach or something like that.
Sure thing.
Simply fascinating, Lynnaea.
Yeah, awesome.
And we can do one or two more pieces also. I think there is one more question over there. How do you, means it's a pretty big instrument. What are the typical ways you take care of, apart from not throwing them in the back of the pickup truck? Means I think about humidity control. Do you have to think about all those elements for a big surface like that?
Yes, you absolutely do. And a lot of cello cases actually have humidity control built in.
Built in, you said?
Yes.
Wow.
So, and they'll have like a humidity gauge inside the case so you can keep an eye on how your cello is doing. And a lot of people will have like special claws that they'll kind of put over their instrument in the case. Basically all different ways of just keeping your cello safe and kind of mitigating some of those environmental factors. My case, since I didn't decide to actually pursue music as a career, I didn't spend the money on a humidity controlling case, but they are out there for people who are needing that really high precision performance. So.
Awesome. But by the way, the last piece was really beautiful, and not only me, but you remember Doug from EMI. He also is saying that was a beautiful piece, and you know he's an expert in physics and sound and all the freeform wavelengths. So that's a pretty great thing. We have one more question. How often do you need to change the strings?
The strings, it really all depends. Sometimes you can just hear it when you're like, I don't know, the strings can be ringing weird or just not resonating as much as they should. And then you know it might be time for a string change. Usually you're supposed to change your strings at minimum once a year, and more if you're performing regularly. So.
And you can do it by yourself, or you need somebody to do that?
I can do it by myself. Yeah. Yep. You can basically, so I don't know if you guys have time for this, but basically this is the peg box up here.
Yeah.
And all you do is you just loosen these pegs so that the strings basically fall off the cello. And then down here, you can, this part right here is where there's like a little bead on the end of the string so that it catches in that slot, and then you pull it up and wind it around the peg.
It's pretty interesting. And coming back to Josiah, you're right now demonstrating a vehicle for exploration on the Martian surface or Europa surface as such. So do you think about the time, like, is it 100 years plus, 200 years plus? How do you think about the context, or you're just right now free from sketching?
Oh, for this thing, man, I don't want to say I'm dreaming, because I am super excited about
it's too early to dream.
New space activities that are going on, and the money that is finally being, focused on interplanetary activity. So that's very exciting. But from a true time scale, I don't know. I'm sure it matters heavily on how quickly any of this can be really commercialized. Like how soon can we find that nice iron deposit, and is it really going to pay off to bring any back?
Iron deposit. We want gold deposits there, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, platinum.
But it's an interesting question, because I think as we are dreaming as futurists, you are maybe right now wearing that hat.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you are sketching, you're still in a nice way, limited, I would say. I would not say limited, but guided by the mechanical constraints that we already know that would be.
That is true.
Correct?
That's
so
totally
it's not just
true.
pure dreaming. It's not just literally imaginary things. There is a decent, I know you might not be thinking about the CG or the balance and all those things, but since you have been used to designing vehicles over here on this terra firma, those things are automatically applied in that dream right now?
That is true. And I don't know if that's for better or for worse, but I think that always makes the piece of art that you're doing more relatable. And for some reason, because of our minds, the way they work, it makes it more relatable, more real, because you see that element of, oh, that could work. So like the unusual, there's got to be like, what was the Raymond Loewy saying it was Maya, most advanced yet acceptable.
Absolutely.
So yeah, the advanced part of this is that it's on another planet and that it's huge, right? This is like maybe the biggest motorcycle that's ever been made before. But
I think maybe at the end you will draw one or two humans.
Yeah, we've got to get some people in here. Yeah.
The context of it. So I know we are around 9:55 a.m. and maybe we can always take a few minutes extra too. But we will go to Lynnaea maybe at least for that last piece as such, and then we'll again come back and pick up on the task of right now. Let's say we are still in the world of art, and maybe Josiah, as we discussed, we can try to connect the art to the product design perspective. So Lynnaea, we are all yours for the next piece.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Yeah, that is absolutely fantastic. Means I was just thinking, the feeling of frustration right now in me. The first is like, there are some things in the world where you see them and you make sure that you don't want to do that. Like you don't like it and you don't want to do it. Like, I don't know, maybe bullfighting. I would not like to do it. I will not like to even attempt to do it. There are some elements where you see them and you say like, yeah, I can do it. I will go and do it. Like it happened with me, obstacle course racing. I saw that thing and I said like, I can do that. I still had to work for it, but I'm doing that. But right now what you are doing, Lynnaea and Josiah, it's like, I see something, but maybe I cannot play an instrument that good. It means no way. Even means I know if I can try and all those things, but like seeing something like that and just saying like, okay, we just are going to see it or understand it. Means sketching again what you are doing, Josiah. It's means eventually I think at the end of the day we might scan the sketch and send it to the participants as such, and you will see the beauty of it lively happening. And diagramming, doodling, and sketching is one, but we know, Josiah, you are an amazing designer, and what you are doing is kind of a gifted thing. So things that you can see, but you know that you just cannot emulate that too, even though how how hard you might learn. So what you do, both of you are really gifted, and thanks again for joining the call and just starting the day with some of the two basic elements, music and I would say expression, free form expression. With sketching as such. I have a couple of more questions for you, Josiah, but one question is from the chat board. As you are conceptualizing, what propulsion system are you envisioning for this motorcycle, if any?
Oh. Well, first I do want to say that I guess I think of talent is a pursued interest. That's all I can say about the impossibility of any of this. I think it's highly possible. It's just that the only reason I can sketch like this is because I never spent any time trying to play the cello. And actually, so it just depends on what you spend your time on. As far as a propulsion system for this goes, I was thinking about the possibility of adding some, solar panels onto the top of this thing or anything like that. I know that's not necessarily enough to move a hulking mass like this. But, it would be really nice. I'm a big fan of nuclear power. I know
especially for vehicles like this.
It's gone wrong. I understand that, but it's just such an intriguing power source. And it's actually pretty common for, space, satellites and things will have nuclear powered power systems.
And especially right now, even I think it's a pretty proven technology for submarines or nuclear submarines or things like that.
Oh, awesome!
It's always there.
Yeah. As long as it's harnessed properly. Yeah, it's just a matter of time before we get a hang of that.
So here's a question, and you have to excuse me for this, but it's a loaded question, Josiah.
Nice.
So it's a blank piece of paper in front of you. You have a pen in your hand. When the pen touches the blank piece of paper, are you thinking about? And again, before that, I should change the topic from art. So I think right now we are in a way looking at, let's say, there's a world of art, and then there is a world of design.
Right.
So let's try to talk about that. How do you cross that bridge, or for you it's not a bridge, it's one and the same?
Well, regarding laying out the sketch.
That question is a little bit odd right now as I'm asking it again. Like art typically would be self-expression, right? Means let's say if you see the bull sketches by Picasso, he thinks it's a bull and it is a bull and people buy it for millions of dollars. Versus design would be more for the user empathy. What would be the target segment will be looking at it, working from it, expecting from it. So you have a lighthouse, you have let's say an aim to fulfill with the sketch you start. So let's try to, sorry, go ahead.
I'm just going to say that it's a little bit easier actually when you're doing it with such a clear goal in mind. When you're faced with literally a blank slate, a blank sheet of paper with no real goal other than entertainment, it's like infinitely open, and you're, it's actually kind of liberating sometimes to actually solve a problem, and maybe that's my, natural industrial designer coming out. But when there is no challenge, like there is no actual challenge to create a motorcycle for the Martian surface. So this one has, go ahead.
So again, from the design perspective, from the industrial design, product design perspective, where eventually you're going to solve those identified problems. Now comes the real question: when the paper and the pencil touch each other. Maybe Mr. Byron, you need to mute yourself. So when that happens, do you think about the product or do you think about the brand? So let's say you are, let's say as a design studio, we get approached by a company and we want to design the next lawnmower. At that time, what does the thought process should happen, or what happens in your mind when you are, let's say, in the ideation sprint element?
Yeah, well, obviously there has to be a little bit of both, because companies spend so much on their brand equity, and you have to be aware of that. At the same time, again, as a designer, we're so eager to put our mark on the world, and so maybe you have in your mind, you think you have a good direction for this brand to go in. So while there is that awareness and empathy towards the brand as it exists, there's always an eagerness to steer it in a little bit of a new direction, at least for me.
Yeah, absolutely. That happens too. Maybe we can have, how much time do you need more? Maybe 4 or 5 minutes at least to, let's say, seal it.
Let's go that long.
There's
Maybe
one more
I can
question.
finish this offline.
And then no, we can always. Means this is really more exciting than even what I will have to talk for the next one-on-one on design. And actually, we are actually started to talk about design. There is just one question. Means as a talented artist like you, or speaking about talented artists, just as easily you are drawing a vehicle or you're drawing a product, with that easiness, can you also sketch animate objects, animals, people, and all those things too?
I've learned to put my own spin on some of those things, and I guess you just develop your own style, right? And it totally depends on the medium that you sketch with. It's like, being that I'm so attached to my RSVP ballpoint pen here, the style of sketch becomes very much like this. It's very, very blocky, and you're kind of like outlining where the forms start and end, and sort of creating the borders where that happens. So I tend to do the same with natural drawings as well. So
as a designer, as you're expressing yourself right now, it might be, let's say, product design, or it might be a little bit brand oriented kind of a direction as such. As our studio, we invest heavily into a robust design research based element. So I think the question here would be, I know there are only a few minutes left to do justice for this question, but how do you distance yourself away from your own confirmation bias? Everybody has that. And then you latch on to the findings that we reveal from our design research, qualitative and quantitative elements. How do you do that inside your brain? It's a pretty hard question, but
actually, I haven't been that challenged by that. And the only reason for that is that I can go home and draw stuff like this. So yeah, it's like, keep this out of your work if it's not asked for, in a way. And I don't want to say asked for. Asked for is the wrong term. It's like, you have to read between the lines, right? That's our whole thing. It's not, to throw another quote out there from Henry Ford, if I listened to my customers, I would have made them a faster horse.
Yep.
So yeah, right. You can't just do what people ask for, but it's not that hard. It's nice to have clear direction, in a way, actually, with what that research can find. It's the process that we've been involved with is really I don't know, gratifying, in that you have something that is quantifiable.
Yeah, gratifying in the way that at the end result, the product which will be designed is eventually going to answer the benefits or the attributes that the user wants to have in the first place. That really completes the answer in a nicer way. You talk about horses, means Henry Ford and horses.
Yeah.
You would be knowing this for the audience. Sid Mead, one of the amazing futurists that was on this planet Earth. He actually mentioned Josiah. He was asked a question. This was 20 years ago. What's the future of vehicles going to be? And at that time, he had answered, and I'm going to paraphrase his answer a little bit. He said, I see the future like a herd of electrified horses going down the road. And if you see now and try to abstract it today, horses that you are drawing a two-wheeler, it is in a way electrified or nuclear powered, so it is clean energy. And he said herd, it's a convoy of vehicles. Eventually, right now, we are entering the world of autonomous system where cars lock themselves up and a convoy goes up and down. He was in a way, means I know we all as designers are biased with SynMade, but it's a pretty great, I would say, abstraction of what the future might be in an electrified herd of horses going down the road. And it seems pretty apt. Doesn't have to be a big, heavy chunk of metal, but it can be a little bit more designed for one or two humans. It might be in tandem. It might be side by side. It can be electrified. It can be autonomous. All this connectivity, sensorification, autonomous digitization comes into place. We can, I know we are a little bit over time. That's perfectly okay. You can keep on sketching as I'm going to just talk about a little bit about 101s about industrial design. So I think we will take the next 15-20 minutes to talk about that. And then I will hand it over to Lynnaea to, let's say, kickstart do some of the basic housekeepings, and then we'll come back to the panel at 10:30 as such. So once again, it was a great morning start, means hot cup of coffee, amazing music, and amazing artwork to look at, which we'll still be keeping and seeing how it comes forth. And towards the end of the day, I think we will get it scanned and we will send it to the participants who are lucky to actually see it happen. And I see David Tim also over there. Maybe we can do a small auction of this hand-drawn. I think he loves motorcycling just like you.
Yes.
And we can try to see. It can be one pack of 6 beer or maybe more than that for the auction. But coming back to the world of design, so I think most of you know, we are an industrial design studio, you're a product innovation studio. And when I say product, it's an object. It can be a service, it can be an experience, a utensil, an implement, a gadget, and graphic user interface. It's the things that we use in this world to finally go and reach to the intended benefit as such. And I think as we're just talking with Josiah and Lynnaea, we are trying to see how we are influenced by things around us in the natural world. It might be music, it might be landscape, it might be nature, things that mold us or things that have molded us since time immemorial till right now, and how as a mental mind, we're always trying to seek out and look out for those elements finally to go and do I would say a meaningful product. By the way, Josiah, David says a nice bottle of whiskey for the sketch. Now you can ask a very nice bottle of whiskey, the one that you really want.